If you arrived in Sinking Spring 60 plus years ago by rail, you would have rolled up to the Sinking Spring passenger station. It was a stop along the Reading Railroad's Lebanon Valley line, which began passenger service in 1857 and was discontinued in 1965. The station was built in 1872 and the freight house in 1858. Both had fallen into disrepair by the 1970s. The Sinking Spring Historical Society was formed in 1977. From the Society's formation, the Save Our Station Committee formed for the explicit purpose of finding a way to preserve these structures. The project was headed by local Richard Barnett and took over a year of feasibility studies and fundraising. In December of 1978, their hard work paid off. The station was relocated from its original spot in front of the railroad house on Woodrow Avenue to its current location in Heritage Park, less than a quarter-mile west. This year marks the 45th anniversary of that monumental undertaking. The freight house is used for society events, including membership meetings in the warmer months. One of the neat vestiges in here is the original scale that was used to weigh freight. If you've been through Sinking Spring recently, you may be aware that the borough is currently in the midst of a huge roadway project to help the flow of traffic on Penn Avenue. The original Borough Hall building that sat at the Penn Avenue and Columbia Avenue split was a casualty of this project and was razed in 2016. Parts of the building dated back to the late 1700s. The circular window, which faced westbound traffic on Penn, was restored and donated back to the Historical Society. The iron railing that sat above the front door was also salvaged before it was raised. The Sinking Spring Historical Society holds an open house yearly in September, and 2023's event is on Sunday, September 17th, between 1 and 4 p.m. President Paul Miller was kind enough to give me a private look at their collection to film for you all, but I highly recommend you go and check it out then for yourself. There is so much more to see than I could possibly cover in one video. My favorite room in the station museum is the Sinking Spring schoolroom, though I'm a little biased and you'll find out in a second why. This part of the building served as the ladies' waiting room when the station was in service, but now it holds a variety of artifacts from the Sinking Spring High School, which became the elementary school after Sinky consolidated with the Wilson School District in 1954. If you're interested in the history of the Sinking Spring School, there is a link in the description which will tell you everything you ever wanted to know. If you've ever had any questions of my historical authenticity, just know that I am an exhibit in this museum, as is anyone who ever attended Sinky. Many class photos can be found here to browse. I happen to find my kindergarten and first grade photos. During the course of putting this together, I punched in keywords to newspapers.com to see if anything newsworthy happened at the Sinky passenger station over its years in use. In 1874, a conductor was killed near the station while shifting cars off his train, which was heading into Reading. The August 3rd, 1874 Reading Times described the situation: when the engineer, upon the signal of the brakeman, pulled out suddenly, and the conductor endeavored to jump from his car to the rear bumper of the receding train. The distance was too great, however, and the conductor fell upon the track. The portion of the train which had been cut off for the purpose of being run upon the siding passed over him, mangling and crushing his body in a horrible manner. The scattered remains were collected, enclosed in a box and sent to Lebanon upon the evening passenger train. Yeesh, they didn't really spare any details back then. Various accidents happened over the years, including a runaway train car in 1881 which slammed into an oncoming locomotive. In July of 1913, another freight wreck killed 2 and left 2 more seriously injured. In 1918, a flagman was run over by a car and killed. The railroad business was always a dangerous and unforgiving one. Yet for every casualty of the railway, there were thousands more who utilized the service to move around the region. My grandmother grew up on Columbia Avenue and recalled taking the train from this station to Hershey Park for the day with her friends, in 4th grade, without their parents. That was obviously a very different time. This 1875 wood stove is original to the building. The middle section of the building is where the telegraphers sent and received messages and kept an eye out for approaching trains. Tickets could be sold through the windows to both the men's and women's waiting rooms on either side. Yes, at least initially, passengers were segregated by sex. Most remember the Sinking Spring Drive-In. Perhaps my favorite artifact in the whole building is this car speaker, which once blared the sounds of films on the big screen. This shot shows an interesting perspective, where the train station now sits in relation to the tracks, the split of the Columbia line which goes down past Montello and all the way to Lancaster, and where the station used to sit in front of the railroad house, indicated by the arrow. The railroad has always been an integral part of Sinking Spring, both in its industries and as a means of pedestrian travel. And who knows, maybe someday we will again utilize rail service to travel between our cities.